12 o'clock, call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our next item is roll call of members. Will you do the roll call, please, Jason?
Sarah Sarda.
Here.
Terry Crandall.
Here.
Kathy Greenaway.
Here.
Franny Kiefer.
Here.
Jill Sternquist.
Here.
Okay, since we're all here, we do have a quorum. Move on to item number 2, the approval of tonight's agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as listed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Jason.
Sternquist.
Yes.
Crandall.
Yes.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Greenaway.
Yes.
Sarda.
Yes. Item number 3, conflicts disclosure. At this time, it is time to identify if you have a direct conflict or an indirect conflict of anything of tonight's meeting. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is public comment. Jason, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No, we did not.
Okay, then we will move on to the item of the day, masking.
Okay, Jason, can you put up the kind of the revised recommendation that we had one in your agenda for today, and since that time I reached out to our school attorney, as you know, and visited with her and got some advice from her. Wanted to make sure that what we were doing fell within the line of doing it the right way, and so she worked up a recommendation for us, and you have that in front of you now. And I would say that yesterday we had a special meeting with our Healthcare Advisory Committee, which we have leaned on all year long to help us make decisions. And this is what we discussed, what you see in front of you, that regarding the indoor masking. And so I would say that, safely say that part of this recommendation also is coming through the Healthcare Advisory Committee. And I know that Sarah and Jill are both part of that, and they can certainly comment if they'd like to. And then also Ryan will come up and talk a little bit about how this will impact activities.
I'll just jump in from the meeting yesterday. I sound a little like a broken record as far as what always the recommendations is coming from this committee is to stay the course, even when there's possibility of frustrating people or people don't agree, but that we always follow the science and with the CDC. I also think it is important that we do give latitude to our administration and staff as these CDC changes are made. It's important that we let them deal with these changes as quickly as possible, so we're not always in a situation like today where we have to meet formally and approve every single change in the CDC. I will say I really appreciate Dr. Sternquist's input on this committee as far as her recommendations and what she adds to it as far as what we should be doing. Do you have any other comments?
My only comment kind of came up after we got a parent email. I think a lot of our discussion in the group was about activities, which I think is voluntary. And so I think in that situation, we are sending our kids to do sports and they are going to take off their masks to play. So there is, definitely, I want to say you're already kind of stepping into a risk situation, but, parent in a situation brought up that in the classroom, having everyone kind of do the same thing in that situation where the adult would probably be the only person that wouldn't be able to mask. That was my only kind of consideration if there's, we should be doing something different with that.
I did talk to Kathy Wagner about that, about the concern that came from one of our parents. And we do have extended school year for some of our kids. And Kathy had mentioned that, one of the things like we did even back in August when we started the school year with masking, we just worked with those parents and we made accommodations as we needed to. And I think in the case that was brought forward, I think that that's something that school staff could do. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Kathy. You're welcome to come up. So I think from that perspective that I think we could certainly work with parents as we did, you know, since August, and it seemed to work really well, so.
The only other comments I would add is that, you know, the trend is down. We're now in moderate spread, as I understand, so that's very helpful. And I guess, you know, just today, here we sit within 2 hours of closing for the year. And so we know that many of these protocols and procedures that we did were effective, because we're literally at the finish line right now. So I appreciate to all the staff and administration, students, and everyone that they have been following these guidelines, because I do think it is for the best. And I also just remind, you know, when I think about this particular thing we're voting on, is that it really does, if you're doing the right thing, we're rewarding parents who have gone through, and if their children are vaccinated, then it's somewhat of a reward for that. And it also leaves it up to the individual discretion about being vaccinated or not. But if you are vaccinated, you are going to be in a situation where you could remove your masks. So that's all I have to say. If anybody else has any other comments.
Dr. Kendall, could you remind us what students 12 and under will be in the buildings throughout the summer? Just because 12 and up obviously have access to the vaccination. I'm just wondering what we need to do to protect those 12 and under students.
Yeah, so primarily, and Ryan, you can start heading up to the podium. Primarily, you know, it'll be some of our extended school year students. We're talking under 12. And most of those will be in any of our special needs classes, you know, that are extended through the summer. We will also have some camps that will happen throughout the summer that some of our activity people are putting on. And so that will really be the bulk of the kids that will be in the building at that age level.
I would agree with what Dr. Kendall said. So June 1, 2, 3, and 4, our girls and boys basketball team coaching staffs puts on youth basketball camps. So most definitely there will be students in the building that week who are under the age of 12. And then in a joint city and high school effort, I say high school effort, high school coaching staff, they run a basketball academy out of the gyms during the summer months of June and July. And that is, again, it's a joint city and school combination effort. So there will be also youth in the gym that are under the age of 12 for that program throughout the summer too, at hour-and-a-half increments in the mornings.
During exercise, masks are not required, correct?
Correct. And we've been doing that consistently all school year long, that masks have been taken off by our athletes while they're practicing, while they're competing. So that's correct.
I do have one more comment that I'd like to make, and it kind of follows with what our board chair was talking about, getting through this school year. And I would say this, and I say this very proudly of our school district. We are in minimal spread right now, and I think the case count the last time I looked at is maybe 13 or 14 active cases. I think that the school district, we're going to take credit for some of that in our community. We've stayed the course. You as a board have assured that we've done that, and we have done everything we can to follow CDC guidelines and Department of Health. And where we're at today, not only as a school district, but as a community, I think we're going to take some credit for that. And had we not done the things that we did, there was a good chance that we wouldn't have stayed in school. There could have been a whole lot more community spread, and we could be in a way different position than what we are today. And so I really do commend our entire school district and our school board for all the decisions that we had to make and to follow through with those. So I'm really pleased with being on the last day of school, and we're in school and did not miss any.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from the board or questions?
My only concern would be, so the CDC, like for school guidelines, has basically said stay with masking through the end of the year as kind of a consistent thing. And I realize like over the summer that's going to change as far as who is able to be vaccinated. What happens if in the fall the CDC says we still recommend masking for all staff and students regardless of vaccination?
Yeah, So the recommendation that you have in front of you really, it carries us through the summer months in the sense of until we get to our August school board meeting. And then at our August school board meeting, that's when we'll have a bigger discussion about what does fall hold for us in starting school with kids, and how does that involve masking and all the other protocol that we put into place. So I think what we're looking at today will get us up to the August school board meeting, and there may even be a chance that a different decision is made at the August school board meeting, and by the time we start school 3 weeks later, that could change a little bit. So I think we're going to do what we did last year, starting the year. We'll ease into what we're going to do. We will have our revised return to school plan for the board at the August school board meeting, and then that will be fluid like we did this year. We will change as we need to accordingly.
I would add too, for transparency with activities, with the August school board meeting being, a couple of Mondays into August, that means all of our school fall sports, which start on the 1st of August, whatever that Monday is, August 2nd or 3rd, we will continue to do what we're doing throughout the summer as we start that, unless there's a decision made otherwise, until up until that point of the August board meeting, if that makes sense to you.
Has there been a motion or second on this yet?
None.
We're still in discussion. Is there any more questions? Okay. It is an action item, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we amend our masking policy consistent with the wording that was provided to us, unless you want it completely read.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
The only thing I've got regarding this policy, and I'm fully in favor of it, is I am concerned about the enforcement of this policy when you have a discrete group that is privileged, or whatever you want to call it, not to wear a mask. And given that situation, I think this experiment that we'll have over the summer will probably give us a lot of information regarding how well we can or cannot enforce a policy that has two different groups in which we are enforcing it one way for one group and one way for the other group. And so that'd be of interest to me to see how that turns out, and even if that's doable in a situation where we have a full school full of faculty and staff and so forth. And so how we enforce it this summertime, because I know we have both adults in this school district and obviously many students who are not vaccinated, and maybe who may not ever get vaccinated, who knows, depending upon their politics, their personal preferences. So again, enforcement throughout the summer and our experiences in the summertime will inform me as to how we proceed in the fall, as well, of course, as CDC guidance and the amount of COVID present in the community at that time.
Thank you.
I'm also I know one of our responsibilities is protecting the safety of all of our students. And so do we want to put an amendment in there or put in something about the extended school year? I know we can deal with it on a basis. So I guess, Dr. Kindle, do you think from an administration point that we can work individually and protect the safety of those students who do not have access to the vaccine yet, is my one concern.
Yeah, I mean, I feel confident. Kathy, do you have anything else you want to add to that? While she's coming up here, like I said, we ran into some different circumstances throughout the school year, with our masking. And very honestly, we were able to work through that. And so I don't see that this extended school year being any different, other than what you've mentioned, Franny, that now that vaccine isn't available to kids under 11 or 12, but there's also no guarantee that some of those, even in ESY, would do the vaccine, but I don't know that. I think it's just really working closely with the parents, and and our staff has been very flexible, and I think it is doable.
The only thing I was going to add is that we're talking about probably less than 30 kids total. And at any one time, they would be in a group of maybe 5 students in a room. I understand what you're saying about it's a different standard, like for the teacher versus the student, and that follow through trying to help the kids understand why they need to wear a mask. I honestly don't think our ESY teachers will have a problem wearing the mask, setting that example, if that's what it takes. I do think that in some cases where we have a speech language student who is getting services for articulation or language therapy, that has been a disadvantage, for the SLPs, that they weren't able to see them. We have the see-through masks, but they're not as clear. But we also have the plastic between them as well. So I think whatever you decide, the staff is going to adapt. But I just wanted to point out that it's a small number of students, and many of them are working in groups of 1 to 3. So.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot.
Okay, good discussion. Any other?
I just had one other comment to go with Kathy's, and I don't want to get this too confusing, but, I think we also have a responsibility to even some of the extended school year students that are coming, that those students that have vaccinated and their parents in some respects would expect that if I follow the rules here, I don't want to have my kid masked all summer now. So that's why I think it's going to be Kathy and Jerome working with our ESY extended families and our staff, and to make this work if there's a special circumstance, and to try to work our way through it.
And there are high school students that I'm referring to. They aren't all elementary. Like a lot of times we think of younger elementary. Yes, there are, but there are also high school kids that would have the opportunity to have that.
Okay, thank you. Last chance. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please, Jason.
Greenaway,
Yes.
Crandall,
Yes.
Kiefer,
Yes.
Sternquist. Yes. Sorda.
Yes. Moving on to item number 6, the teaching position. Mrs. Reichen will come and discuss. Junior kindergarten teacher.
Thank you, Mrs. Reichen.
Jason, could you put the agenda up on our screens, please?
Thank you.
Okay. Are you ready for me, or was there something first? You're ready.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to just take a little look back historically and visit with you about numbers previously in junior K, so you have that perspective. So every February, we conduct a registration for junior kindergarten and kindergarten for the upcoming school year. We've kept data over the past 14 years of the number of students registered in the spring, and then those who actually enroll and attend in the fall. This year's registration numbers for next school year are promising and great news for the Yankton School District. More specifically, our numbers in junior K are the highest they've been since the program began nearly 20 years ago. Looking back, when we started junior K, we had 2 classrooms. After a few years, we added a 3rd section of junior K due to increased enrollment. Over the past 8 years, those numbers have stayed steady or continually increased. In May of last year, we had 51 students registered and ended at 58 for the current school year. That tied for our highest enrollment ever in junior K. At this time today, we currently have 63 students registered in junior K for next school year. This is the highest number we've ever had in the spring. When we look back over the past 14 years, we typically have seen an average increase of enrollment from spring to fall in junior K of about 10 to 15%. In addition, every fall, there's typically a few kindergarten students who are suggested to move to junior K with parent approval within the first quarter, as the kindergarten placement is just a little too difficult for them based on their age. So with these increased numbers really becomes the difficulty of providing a developmentally appropriate classroom setting while maintaining order with these barely 5-year-olds. These young learners need space to move and flexibility that can be effectively achieved with a smaller class size. I believe that our program will only continue to flourish if we are able to allow a more at-ease environment, which is appropriate for our barely 5-year-olds. During our first few years of the program, we really noticed an increase in behavior issues in junior K, but it was through careful observation and reflection that we were able to determine we were actually probably treating them more like kindergartners and not junior kindergartners. Through many effective changes, including probably most specifically smaller class sizes, we were able to diminish many behavior issues and have more success. Providing an additional class of junior K is what is right for kids during these early learning times. Administratively, we discussed many options. Our final recommendation is to create another junior K section and hire an additional teacher and half-day para at Webster. We would purchase the necessary supplies and furniture for the new junior K room. However, we would certainly share as much as possible with the current rooms. Overall, I think the numbers enrolled in junior K for next school year are extremely encouraging. I believe YSD should be very proud of our early childhood programs that have been built along with the extremely great community support. The fact that our numbers continue to increase is quite a compliment and proves we're paving the way in the right direction for our earliest learners.
Mrs. Reagan, are there eligibility requirements for junior K?
Are there?
Eligibility requirements?
Oh, good question. So you do have to be 5 on or before September 1 of the current year. So it's the exact same requirement as kindergarten. Typically, we see those kids who have spring or summer birthdays, so they've just turned 5 years old.
And what do you attribute the growth from then?
I don't know. We were asking Jill about birth rate, maybe 5 years ago. I'm not sure. I really, I truly believe that, the focus on early childhood in the district over the past several years, including that free preschool, has gotten more kids in the door. And I think our community and parents realize the importance of that. I've said from the beginning when we started preschool, how many years ago, who's our best advertisement? Parents. Moms talk. No offense to any dads, but moms share the good news. So I think, we've never forced a child to be in junior K. Parents, they sign up and want it. So I think they've heard the good news. They see the boost it can give them. They talk to many of us who have had our kids in it, who are now maybe in high school or beyond, who have just achieved great things, have a little bit better self-confidence.
Mrs. Riken, if we did nothing, and based on the numbers that you're presenting today, what would those 3 sections look like?
So if we did nothing as of today, each of those rooms would have 21 kids in them. Until you've been in there and seen what 20 barely 5-year-olds are like for a full entire day of school, it's hard to grasp and to understand that. It's a little bit of chaos, right? Because they're all brand new, they're just learning, they're curious, and that's the purpose of junior K. We want them to be able to move around. We want them to be able to sing and dance and learn in that sort of way. But the more bodies you get in there, the more rules you have to start having. And not all 5-year-olds like rules, right? So 21 in each class would be the most we've ever had. I wouldn't feel confident saying that program would be doing due diligence to those kids, especially it'd be just about the same size, a little bit smaller than our kinder classes.
And very honestly, we've had this discussion, I'd say the last couple of years, and, kind of holding off, kind of see how things would go, and then COVID hit, and we just kind of put a stop to doing anything different, and we came to this point with looking at our numbers for next year. and decided that now was the time that we really do need to do something, given our numbers.
So Mrs. Riken, what would be the optimum class size that you would shoot for? Is it in that 14, 15, 16 range to just have them be in?
So junior kindergarten was started before, I think 2 years prior to me arriving at Webster. But I know, thinking back to Joyce Wentworth, who was very instrumental in beginning the program, in her initial proposal, there was a number that was discussed. It was not a capped number, but a number that was discussed was 16. I think 16 to 18 it's very doable for a classroom like this. We have, I think this year we had a class that was at 20. It really just becomes a whole different ballgame. In addition to those 63 kids registered for next year, I would add that there are also 12 special education students included in those numbers, which is the reason for the additional half-time para. We've done that the last few years.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mrs. Riken? Comments? Hearing none, roll call please, Jason.
I'd like to make an motion to approve the hiring of an additional junior K. What?
Second.
I'll second.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, now roll call please.
Kiefer,
Yes.
Crandall,
Yes.
Sternquist,
Yes.
Greenaway,
Yes.
Sarda.
Yes. Our final item is adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call please, Jason.
Crandall,
Yes.
Greenaway,
Yes.
Kiefer,
Yes.
Sternquist,
Yes.
Sarda.
Yes. We are adjourned.